Well, as we reported earlier, there's some targeted financial help for hard-hit sectors of the economy in the fiscal update, including hotels, tourism, and the airline industry. But a lot of that airline industry help is aimed at smaller airlines or at the regional carriers or for airport infrastructure programs and so on. Big airlines, they've been left out. Mike McNaney is the president and CEO of the National Airlines Council of Canada. It represents those big airlines. Mr. McNaney, first of all, thanks for joining me this evening. What's in the fiscal update that responds to the crisis in the airline industry?
Oh, it's a good question. There are some elements in there that you saw in terms of airports. There's some regional initiatives in there. We don't know the particular details of them. They're quite vague at this point. What we had hoped to see was a clear plan from the government and a clear recognition from the government that a stable aviation sector is going to be absolutely crucial for our overall economic recovery. And we have seen other jurisdictions now have invested approximately $170 billion US in their respective aviation communities, precisely because of the role aviation has to play to further their own economic recovery. So we had hoped that we would see a little bit more direction from the government as far as its support for the sector overall. And we had also hoped that we would have seen more direction in terms of the plan for rapid testing and the rollout of rapid testing.
Yeah, there's a line in the fiscal update that the government has played before Canadians before, which is, we're currently in the middle of negotiations with airlines about providing refunds to Canadians who had their flights canceled because of the pandemic. So, let's put those two things together. Is that what this is about today? That, no help for the big airlines till you get that settled, and that seems to be what the message is from the government today.
Well, actually, I think the airlines are initiating reimbursements. There's been several announcements on that over the past several weeks, and I don't speak to any individual carriers' activities. Obviously, I speak at an industry level. So that activity has been underway. In terms of, I can't remember the exact phrasing the government used. I did write it down here, so if you let me look at my note briefly. It's working on processes with major airlines on financial assistance. That is the same language that has been used off and on over the past couple of months. In terms of why why the government is still using that language and why we're still waiting to move forward, they are best placed to answer that question.
Well, what kind of conversations are you having with them? I mean, you've been putting out, what did I see numbers is what passenger traffic's down 86%? Is that,
If it was 86%, it would be a bit of a recovery. It's overall month to month, year over year, it's down approximately 90%.
Right.
And capacity in the marketplace has been reduced 80%. So we ostensibly shut down 80% of the business. And we've lost now, the latest figures I had seen, we've lost now about 85% of our connectivity. And that's as a result of carriers drawing down their schedules, eliminating service in certain regions of the country, and basically every region of the country has been hit.
But do you think there's a connection here between the government saying, look, we're still negotiating with airlines about how to refund these passengers, and that you're not going to get any help till that gets settled? Some are doing it, but it sounds like the government needs to see a formal plan where everybody's doing it.
Well, in terms of what thinking the government is doing and why it hasn't moved forward again, you're going to have to put that to them. But the public statements have been made by carriers in terms of reimbursement. And the government continues to utilize the phrasing it is using for whichever reasons it is deeming fit to do so.
Okay. How does the support for airlines in this country compare to what's being done in other countries?
It doesn't. It just flat out doesn't compare. The overall figures so far, as I said, about 173 billion US. That has consisted of a variety of mechanisms. We have been asking since, I guess, midsummer, actually, and earlier into the spring for low interest loans and loan guarantees. We've also been recommending that the government address the challenges that exist in other aspects of the aviation community. So NAV Canada, for example, we experienced a 29.9% tax increase in September for air navigation services as NAV Canada tries to deal with its precipitous drop in revenue as well. So we think that is ostensibly a creation of government legislation. So we have been asking for the government to address liquidity broadly within the sector. You have seen other countries have moved on a variety of means for direct assistance, and we are now seeing Canadian carriers losing market share to these foreign carriers who are increasing their capacity internationally.
Right, which raises the prospect of a much deeper and longer lasting hit, even after the pandemic, right? Once you lose that some of those routes and some of that competition, it's very hard to get it back. All right,
you're fighting from backward. Yeah, you're fighting from a downward position.
I have to leave it there, but for the moment, the airline industry is still waiting for direct help from the government. Mr. McNaney, thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you.